Oh my god. Yo guys, what is up? Max and Wonderlands video, and today we're talking about how to deal the absolute most damage in Wonderlands with a single damage number, and it involves some triple dipping, it involves some damage shenanigans, and I want to share it with you guys because it's pretty freaking crazy, and this is the stuff that I love. I love trying to figure out how to deal these single highest damage instance that we can deal in the game, and I think that this interaction is it. So I hope you guys enjoy the video, and let's get right into it. Now, for the build that we're actually using my Dreadwind build that I put out 2 weeks ago. It is a Spore Warden Berserker build, and when I put that build out, it was one-shotting bosses, but we were using all, like, non-chaotic gear, and, like, for example, I didn't have a Volatile Wailing Banshee, which has definitely pumped up our damage a bunch, but we're using that same build. However, the big difference is I've added a new enchant, and this enchant is the Explosion, Spore Explosion, or the Spore Fuse enchant, that after I activate Barrage, gun and ability damage have a 25% chance to cause an explosion, dealing 30% of the damage dealt as poison damage. And you'll note that that big 66 million damage that I did was a poison damage explosion. So how do we get to that point? Well, this interaction starts with a melee hit, a melee swing. Our melee swings have a chance to proc Blast Chill. Blast Chill is a double dipping skill that does ability damage, and my melee will cause Blast Chill. Blast Chill does ability damage, and that ability damage can then proc the Spore Fuse enchant for a Poison Nova. That is, in simplest terms, the chain of reactions that need to occur in order for us to do this much damage. Now, for that to occur, I only have a 20% chance for this to proc, and then I only have a 25% chance for this to proc. So we're working with small chances here of all of this damage actually coming together. Now, the reason this does so much damage is because triple and double dipping. Now, let me explain what that is. So, real quick, Blast Chill is a skill that double dips. Whenever the Fate Maker deals melee damage to an enemy, there's a chance to release a Frost Nova, dealing Frost ability damage. For example, I'm wearing a Cursed Wit. While Ward is depleted, gain 17% damage reduction and 100% increased damage dealt to nearby enemies. My melee hit is going to be getting that 100% increased damage dealt, right? When my shield is depleted. So my melee is going to get 100% more damage. Blast Chill is going to scale off the melee hit, and it's going to receive that 100% damage increase on the melee, but when Blast Chill actually procs, it grabs all of my damage increases again, so it grabs that 100% damage increase. That is double dipping. However, when Blast Chill procs the Spore Fuse or Spore Explosion enchant, this enchant does ability damage and also double dips with our damage. So we're getting a triple dip interaction from our melee hit to our Blast Chill, to our Spore Fuse, and that is what's causing this much freaking damage. Now, the reason I use Dreadwind is because when I melee, I only have a 20% chance of this proccing, and Dreadwind melees, or does a melee every 0.35 seconds. So we're merely using Dreadwind as a way to increase our chances of this damage actually occurring. Now, the reason this isn't a build video is because, gonna be honest with you, it's just simply not practical. This amount of damage is not practical in the game because every time I tried to do it on one of the raid bosses, they would die before the Spore Fuse procced in the first place. The odds of it happening are simply too small for like practical use, but I did want to show this off because I think it's so cool. I do think you're better off just going a full Dreadwind build and not worrying about the Spore Fuse enchant, because like you could just have like melee damage or like frost damage roll on something like this and then be dealing more consistent damage than the tiny chance of this huge damage occurring. But I thought it was super cool, and the fact that we have a enchant in the game that basically is going to allow us to triple dip into all of our damage gives us just so much possibility for absurd damage. And so to wrap it all up, you may be wondering, how did I get that damage to proc against Parasite? Was it just luck? Actually, I was able, with the help of the person that was in the game with me there, to increase Parasite's HP to 100 million HP. This was just for the purpose of testing. Parasite usually sits at around 3 million HP. We set it to 100 million just to see if this damage could proc for scientific purposes and testing only. That was the only reason we adjusted its health value, but we adjusted it to 100 million HP just to see if this could proc, and it did ridiculous damage. It one-shot 100 million HP Parasite, which once again normally has like 2 or 3 million HP. And yeah, that is how we were able to actually see this damage number come to fruition. And guys, I know I might get a little bit of heat just for like adjusting that health value, but I just wanted to say that the only purpose of doing that was just to test to see if this damage theory would come true. Showing on screen, if you're curious, was the gear that I was wearing and all of the rolls that it had, and it's pretty perfect gear. I wanted to see what the highest damage possible was. Like, I didn't have like a volatile Buffmeister, but the rest of it is pretty freaking good. And I don't even think that 66 million was the highest damage. In fact, if you look at the clip, you can see a small mushroom explode next to the big one, and that small mushroom did take more damage from cryo than it did the poison, and I'm wearing a frost damage increase amulet, so it is possible that the cryo damage explosion that caused the 66 million is in a similar ratio and is around double the damage of the actual poison. But in the clip, I can't see the damage number. We had multiple players in the game, so like there was no pausing, but it's possible that the cryo damage was even higher than 100 million damage, which is simply absurd. And yeah, guys, that is the video. I think you could do a little bit more damage with different avenues. There's so many different avenues with this enchant, the Spore Fuse enchant. You could proc it with Blast Gas. Blast Gas does ability damage off of a spell. That could proc Spore Fuse. You could do it with the ability Play the Angles, or the skill Play the Angles, that does ability damage, and that ability damage could then proc Spore Fuse and do crazy, crazy damage. There's some really awesome pathways to do some absurd damage in this game, and that is the point of this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. I really hope you learned something new. If you did, a like is super appreciated. I will catch y'all in the next one, guys. Take care. Peace.